Greetings. Welcome to this chair yoga class, especially for people with back pain, but also others. So in chair yoga, you should have a chair with a sturdy bottom, no arms ideally. Put it on a surface where it won't slip. A rug is great. I've got two of my legs on a yoga mat, or any sort of rubber mat would do. It's best to take your shoes and socks off. If you're wearing socks, make sure they do have skid rubber at the bottom so you don't slide, but ideally take them off. So yoga is the union of mind, body, and breath. And the reason it works for back pain is that the very practice of yoga helps us to relax. This allows our muscles to relax. And then the physical movement helps us to stretch and contract muscles that might be giving us pain. It is never about causing pain. So if you have any pain, modify the pose that I've suggested, or come out of it altogether, and I'll give you some suggestions along the way. So let's begin. Come to your seat, sit halfway up so that your feet are on the ground, knees are over your ankles, toes point forward unless your hips really don't like that. Sit up tall with a dignified posture, but not like a tin soldier. Maintain the normal curves of your back. Maybe lift your shoulders, put them down. Maybe even start by taking your arms to the side to help you know where your shoulders belong in space. And then put your hands wherever feels comfortable. Start with your chin parallel to the floor. Maybe look straight ahead. Consciously relax the muscles of your face and your jaw. Begin to breathe through your nose as much as possible. Inhale slowly and exhale slowly, trying to match your exhales with your inhales. This may not happen right away, and if you're just aware of your breath, that's a great start. Just sit here, trying to come into this space, bringing your attention to what we're doing together. If your mind wanders, with kindness, bring it back to the practice. Yoga is also a philosophy, and its chief philosophical overarching detail is that of kindness, and that begins with kindness to self. So be very accepting of wherever you are in this practice. And if it's too simple, we will move along at your own pace. So you're sitting up tall. I'm going to turn to the side just so you can see my back. And the first thing I want you to do is just very gently push the small of your back backwards and then come back so you're aware of the lower part of your back and where it is in space. And if this hurts, then don't do it. But ideally, we like the lower back to have its normal curve. Okay. Sit up tall. Bring your hands by your sides, palm facing up. Inhale as you slowly lift your hands. And maybe pause and maybe not. Exhale and bring your arms down. This is a sun breath. Let's do two more together. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. Bring your hands to your lap. Imagine a clock face about this big. Point your nose towards the 12 o'clock. And on your next exhale, start to move your nose around your imaginary clock face, using all of the muscles of our neck where we often carry stress. Moving slowly and with your own breath. Slow inhales, slow exhales. We're going to do 3 or 4 circles. And you can do them whatever size feels right for your neck. Slow, steady breaths. When you're ready, come back to the 12 o'clock. Inhale, and on your next exhale, move in the opposite direction. We're going to try to do everything symmetrically with both sides. If somewhere along you're revolving your nose around the clock face. You come to an area that especially hurts. You might stop there, give an extra breath, let those muscles stretch, and then continue your way around. When you're done, come back to this seated posture. This posture, by the way, is called seated mountain pose. The mountain in yoga represents equanimity or balance. So this is a good posture to take if I ask you to do anything that doesn't feel right in your body while we're sitting. There'll be a standing version later. Inhale and bring both shoulders up towards your ears and start to make shoulder circles. You can do one shoulder at a time or both together, but I prefer that you do it front to back, the opposite of the way we sit over devices and the natural curve that occurs in our spine as we age. Moving slowly in with your breath, whatever feels good in your body. Coming back to a seated posture, take one arm to the side of the chair and curve your other arm, trying to keep your back straight as much as possible. And of course, only doing as much of this as feels good in your body. Inhale, and on your next exhale, come to this crescent moon to the other side. Slow, steady breaths. Inhale back to center. Exhale, lift both arms overhead. Lift one shoulder and then bring it down. And then the opposite. Maybe cross your fingers, push up. Inhale, and on an exhale, turn towards one side. Let your arms come down. Keep your chin parallel to the floor. Let your hips move if they need to move, only going as far as feels good in your body. This is a nice twist for the spine. Slow, steady breath, and if it hurts, then you're not doing it, or doing it just partially. Inhale back to center. Cross your fingers the opposite way, the way that feels funny. Hands forward and up. Inhale, on an exhale, twisting to the other side, lowering your arms, chin parallel to the floor. And breathe, just slowly breathe into the posture. You can even imagine your spine getting long as you inhale, and with each exhale, relaxing, never pushing into the posture. Slow, steady breaths. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, open your legs just till you begin to feel a stretch in your groin. Sit up tall, maybe take your hands behind, curving your spine ever so gently backwards and looking up. Slow, steady breaths. This is sometimes called fan pose. Inhale back to center. Exhale, take your hands forward and look down. This is cat. Your spine is gently curving towards the back of the chair, and breathe. Inhale, and on an exhale, sit up tall, bring your hands behind, come forward just a little. This is called cow. And perhaps your spine is curving gently forward. Slow, steady breaths. If these poses work for you, you can do this as a moving practice. Perhaps inhaling into cat and exhaling into cow. It doesn't matter which posture is in which part of your breath, but moving with your breath, only starting to move as you either inhale or exhale. And if this doesn't feel good, you're modifying it, not going as far or skipping it for now. And maybe you're moving slower than I am, listening to your body first and foremost. And then coming back, sit up tall, maybe bring your feet together, make fists with your palms, with your fists, shoulder height. Inhale, on an exhale, twist towards one direction, arms down, looking gently forward, and skipping this if it doesn't feel right for your body. Inhale back to center, reform those fists. On an exhale, twisting in the other direction for 2 or 3 breaths. Slow, steady breathing. Coming back to center, come to the side of your chair. Maybe one buttock is off the chair, feet point forward to begin. Sit up tall. Make sure you still have that normal curve in your back. And perhaps, if this feels okay, holding onto the chair so you don't slip, walk that front leg back until you feel a stretch in the muscle on the top of the thigh. Maybe lifting your outer arm, maybe looking up into a locust pose on the chair. And if this doesn't feel good, you're skipping it. Slow, steady breaths. Bring that arm down, maybe taking both arms to the back of the chair and maybe twisting ever so slightly to look over the chair. Slow, steady breaths. If this does not feel wonderful, you're skipping this and perhaps just continuing to sit with both legs together. Inhale, and on an exhale, come to the other side. Same thing, one buttock on, one off. Sit up tall with the natural curve of your back in place. And then slowly walking that front foot back. You can go less far, just go as far as feels right for your body. You could be on the top of your foot or on the ball of your foot. Maybe lifting your arm, maybe looking up, which curves your spine gently. And if this is too much, do as much of a pose as feels good for you. And slowly coming back. So come back to the seated posture and slowly stand. We're going to turn our chair, but first we'll start with the chair, behind the chair. And I'm twisting just so you can see what I'm doing. We're going to come to mountain pose. Mountain pose is my favorite yoga pose because you can do it anywhere, anytime, and it's like doing a mini break of yoga. Stand with your toes pointed forward unless your hips don't like this. Push into the mat with the ball and heel of each foot. Lift your toes to be sure you're not pulling into the carpet or the rug wherever you are. Your knees are straight unless they hurt. Engage the muscles of your core, the area from your ribs down to your pelvic bones, both forward and back, but maintain that normal curve in your lower back. And just to make sure, maybe push your lower back and then come back. This is sometimes called a pelvic tilt. This is to help get some movement into that lower part of the spine. So stand with a dignified posture, normal curves in your back. Turn your arms forward to help pull your shoulders back. If this doesn't feel good, you can stand any way that does. Look straight ahead at something not moving, a focal point, sometimes called a drishti point in yoga. Relax your face, relax your jaw, and breathe. This is the posture that you should practice taking anytime you find yourself slumping, not breathing because you're anxious. Anytime, practice getting into this pose. It will help to maintain the normal curves of your spine, and this is important as we age. In fact, do it against the wall to make sure you can pull your head back with your chin level to the floor. Ideally, your shoulders, your ears are right over your shoulders, and if not, this pose can help you get back to that posture. So this is mountain pose. So standing behind your chair, you can also do this against the wall. Holding on to the back of the chair, slowly walk back until your hips are over your ankles. And I'm going to turn my chair so you can see what I'm doing, but you keep looking forward. Perhaps coming as far down as having your back parallel with the floor. But if this doesn't work for you yet, going just as far as you need. If you're feeling a stretch in the back of your legs, you're where you need to be. And breathe. And slowly walk back up to the chair. And you're still facing me, but I'm doing this on the side so you can see what I'm doing. Stand in front of your chair in mountain pose, looking straight ahead. 3 slow breaths. Bring one knee forward, keeping that knee over your ankle. Separate your feet, hips parallel to the front of the chair. This is warrior 1. Slow, steady breaths. Maybe take your hands to heart center. Maybe lifting your hands up. Maybe looking up. Any part of this posture that works for you. In this pose, imagine inhaling through your nose, sending your breath up into your arms, down into your feet, into the earth. This is why it's called warrior. It's a fierce pose. And by the way, in yoga, our warriors fight non-violently and with truth, like advocates. Bring your hands to heart center and come back to mountain pose, and then come to warrior one on the other side. Hands to heart center, stay here, or maybe lifting your hands. Make sure your knees are over your ankles, toes pointing forward in the front foot. Slow, steady breaths. Bring your hands to heart center and come back to standing mountain pose. Maybe move that chair away and we're going to come down to our belly on the mat. And if this doesn't work for you, then skip this part and we'll change for the next video. But if you can get down to your belly on the floor, slowly work your hands forward until you're in Sphinx pose. So in Sphinx pose, your shoulders are over your elbows, your fingers are open wide, and there's a gentle curve in your back. If this hurts, again, let me know and we're going to modify the posture. Again, if you're okay, lower yourself to the mat, looking down when you're actually doing the pose. Obviously, you're looking at me at the moment. But when you do the next pose, keep your gaze down. It's called locust pose. Bring your hands by your side. Inhale and gently lift your head and your neck, keeping your gaze down. If this feels okay, maybe lifting your arms, then bringing everything down. Maybe lifting one leg, maybe with the next breath, the opposite leg, and then depending upon your strength right now, maybe lifting both legs, and then lowering everything to the mat. Depending upon where you are in strengthening your back, you might be able to lift everything up as you keep your gaze down. But if not, that's okay. Maybe you can stay 5 breaths this time, maybe not. Lower everything to the mat. Take your hands and bend your elbows. Bring your hands under your shoulders. Inhale and gently look up. This is a baby cobra. Bring your head down. Maybe lifting a little bit more and maybe not. And slowly lowering everything to the mat and coming to your back. If you have a block, or it could be a book or a strap, keep it handy, especially if you have tight hamstrings. Coming to your back, start by hugging everything into your chest. Maybe roll from side to side. Bringing your feet to the mat. Maybe taking that strap, if you're using it, putting it around one foot, slowly straightening your knee. You can straighten your leg, but this is a lot more pressure on your lower back, so maybe start with your knee bent. Use the strap to straighten your knee, and maybe that's all you need for today. If you're not feeling anything in the muscles of the lifted leg, maybe pulling it forward until you do. Slow, steady breaths. Come back up if you've moved your leg forward. Turn your toes towards the midline. Taking the strap in the other arm, slowly pointing your toe towards the midline. Bring that leg across the midline until you feel a stretch in the outer edge of the leg, the IT band. And stay here. You probably don't have to go very far to feel this. Most of us have tight IT bands. And breathe. Come back up. Release that foot. Put the strap around the other leg. pulling until that knee is straight. Stay there, especially if you're already feeling the muscles engaged in the back of the leg, or bringing it forward until you do. Slow, steady breaths. Come back up if you've brought the leg forward. Turn your toes towards the midline and bring that leg across the midline just until you feel the stretch in the IT band. Release the bind, hug your knees into your chest. Breathe. Bring your knees up until perpendicular, and we're going to do toe taps. Maybe take your arms out to the side to support this. Make sure you still have that normal curve in your lower back. If you don't, you're not going to do this. Keeping one knee bent, take the other toe and maybe just tap the mat. Moving with your breath, maybe inhaling and then exhaling the foot to the mat. And move with your breath, maybe doing 3 or 4 to start. See how that feels for your back. If this is too easy for you, you can go a little further. But we don't want to create any pain in your back. And eventually what you're working towards is going even further, but this may take a while. And again, the first rule of yoga is kindness to self. So don't be in a rush. Not about your ego, what you think you should be doing, listening to your body. And then come to stillness, bring your feet both to the mat. We're going to do cobbler's pose. And again, depending upon the state of your back at the moment, you may be able to lower both knees, but if you can't, keep one upright and lower the opposite one. Stay here maybe for 2 breaths. And then alternate. 2 breaths on each side. If your knees don't make it down to the bottom, if you have that hook or a block, you can support that knee. So it's a little easier to do the pose. Okay, keep that block handy because we may use it. We're going to do another pose, and this one is called bridge pose. We're going to lift our torso like a bridge. We're going to lift it in one piece, keeping our back straight. Start with your toes pointing forward, your heels as close to your bottom as is comfortable. When you do this pose, keep your knees together. And let's just get a feel for it, because if this is not right for you, we're going to do a modified version. In fact, let's start with the modified version, and then we'll decide whether we do the full version. Take your block or a book, and looking up always, put that block under your hips. Maybe take your arms out and see how this feels. This may not be right for everyone. You might experiment with the direction of the block, and if it doesn't feel good, then you're going to skip it. Most often, that's a restorative pose, and most people like it. Another variation of it is to start by turning your palms up and then turning them down. You're going to use your hands to lift your torso, but there are certain rules. You bring your weight mostly to your feet and a little bit to your shoulders, not to your head. So, using your hands, pushing into the floor or the rug, slowly lifting your torso, looking straight up, keeping your knees together. Stay here for a breath or 2. That may be enough for today. Eventually, we can graduate to longer and lower your hips. If that feels okay, maybe we'll do one more, and if not, you're staying with your hips on the mat. And lower your feet. Hugging one knee into your chest to release your back, and then the other side, and slowly rolling over to one side and coming to a seated posture. You can sit with your knees crossed, your legs forward, using your arms to support yourself. A traditional yoga practice ends with 3 minutes of silence in which we link our breath, perhaps to words such as in as you breathe in, out as you breathe out. And this allows the body to sort of absorb the practice, and it frees the mind. And this has been shown to help with relieving stress, and sometimes even allowing things to percolate up into our brain that is a source of stress that we may not be aware of. I'm going to end the tape here because I'm going to look for feedback from you about how to direct this posture, this practice. And once you're ready, I have a series of ready-made chair and then even some more mat practice that may be appropriate. So I look forward to hearing from you.